Hey everybody, Steven here. Today I have an unboxing video for the Gigabyte G32QC monitor here. So this just launched a couple weeks ago. I was really excited. I wanted to try the Gigabyte monitors out. They have the Aorus series, which is their gaming series, but those are overpriced in my opinion. It's kind of like the Acer Predator series where, yeah, they got some premium stuff in it, but when you strip away the RGB lighting and some of those other things, you can get a cheaper product, and that's essentially what they've done here. You can cut those costs down. So this was $369 after tax. It ended up being $406 with shipping from Newegg here. This is the shipping box though, which it's slim, which is kind of nice, but also has me a little bit concerned for potential damage with this. But let's get this thing unboxed, and then as I'm doing that, we'll talk about the specs with this. I'm going to talk about some of the differences between the Aorus and this, and then we'll get this thing set up and we'll look at it. So 32 inch here, 1440p. With this you can actually overclock to 165 Hertz, which is awesome. It has a 1500R curve. From what I've seen for pixel density, it's supposed to be, I believe, 93. But that's one of those things that it's harder to find that sometimes for some reason. All right, so we have our manual. Looks like we have our screws for our mount here. DP cable, HDMI. It has two USB expansion slots on it that are supposed to be 3.1, so this is the attachment to get that to work. Whoa. Power cable, second power cord. Looks like I got two. I don't know if that's on purpose. Maybe that's just in case. But we have our power brick here, which isn't massive, which is nice. That's it, right? A little bit thicker than some of the other ones that are usually flatter, but I like that. All right, we got our stand right here. Screws on the bottom, right? We're just screwed into that. Let's go ahead and get this set up really quick before I pull this out. Hooks into the bottom. I like when they do that on the bottom too. I mean, super easy to get set up. So we're good to go with that. With these bigger monitors, it always makes a little bit nervous unpackaging this thing. So this is the panel itself. That is a very slim side to it. I like that, especially the top-down view. So like I said, 1500R curve. The monitor I have upstairs has an 1800R curve, but I've used 15 and 18. They're pretty comparable in my opinion. So with that subtle difference that I've known, I knew the new Samsung monitor is supposed to have a 1000R curve. So curious to see that in person. But let's go ahead and get this thing mounted up here. So we have our four screws right here. So I'm going to go ahead and get the screwdriver, get this thing set up, and then we'll take a quick look at it before I set it up upstairs. All right, so we are all set up here. Quick, easy, painless. Just screwed in the four screws in the back, and then we were good to go. With this, the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to talk about the specs. I'm going to compare this to the other Aorus monitor that has very similar specs, and then talk about the pricing difference between the two. And then I'm going to talk about the differences with the Freesync variations that you have, because this has Freesync Premium Pro, so I did want to cover that. So in terms of the specs, really quick, I thought this actually had swivel. It does not. So this actually just has the height adjustment with it, so you can go up and down, and then it just has the tilt, right? So with that, you can't swivel side to side. But if you actually have a VESA mount for this, and this is 100 millimeters by 100 millimeters, you can get that set up. And a lot of times those are gonna actually swivel for you there. But if it is something that you need and you don't have a VESA mount and you're not gonna buy one, something to be aware of. I don't typically do that myself, even though most of the monitors I have actually have that option. I just don't find myself swiveling my monitor. But with this, so like I said, this is 32 inches here, 165 Hertz. You have 1440p. It's a VA panel on this. It has a 1500R curve, 1 millisecond response time, which is awesome. And then the DCI-P3 is 94% on this. And then it actually has HDR 400. I've used HDR on monitors before, HDR 400. I've just never been impressed with it. But I've heard with what they're doing with the color on this, it's actually supposed to be better, so I'm curious to check that out for myself. When you're looking at HDR though, the standard is that HDR10, that 1000 nits. So I'll be curious to see what it looks like. Has Freesync Premium Pro, it's G-Sync compatible ready. And then for the ports on this, we have one display port 1.2, two HDMI 2.0, and then two USB 3.0. I thought it was 3.1, but it's just 3.0 on this. It actually has auto update on it, so it should update it by itself, which is awesome. And then the color scale, the sRGB scale here is 124%, which is awesome. Typically I'm gaming on monitors that are 100%, so I'm curious to see with the color what type of difference I'm going to see on this. So that is it with this. We have flicker free, and then we have the low blue light as well. I think it looks really, really cool. And then we'll look at the power buttons and everything like that, and the buttons on the back here. But comparing this to an Aorus, which is their gaming version of this. Like I said, Acer has their Predator versions of this. With that, the Aorus CV27Q, pretty comparable in specs here, but going from 32-inch to 27-inch, one of the bigger things with that. And then price point, you're looking at, I've seen it at $460, typically around $460. Right now on Amazon, everything is sold out. People are just buying up monitors. So with this, it's actually like $500 something right now. That's because people are buying them and jacking up the price and trying to sell it, not a company through Amazon. It's an individual typically. But with that, it still has the 1500 R curve. It's 1440p. It has 90% of the DCI-P3 color accuracy compared to 94 with this. It's a VA panel as well. It has a 1 millisecond response time. You're looking at the 165 Hertz. It has Freesync Premium Pro with that as well. On this, it actually has high bitrate 3 ready. I don't know what that is for this. I need to do a little bit more research on it. It does say, it says it has HDR. I believe that is 400 as well. If it's not, it may be 600, but I couldn't track down that info on it. And that one actually has the height, tilt, and swivel adjustment. So you are gonna have that swivel with it. VESA mount ready, and then 0 bright dot policy. Don't know what that means on that. But that's very comparable to this. But like I said, it seems to me like what they've done is they've taken all that really good stuff. They already have the panels and everything like that, and they've simply moved it over to something that's a little bit cheaper, because with the Aorus you're getting the RGB lighting on it and everything like that. It's really geared towards gamers, and so take a lot of that stuff out. They get to drop the price down a little bit, and we get to reap the benefits, especially if you don't need the RGB. I have plenty on my computer. I don't need it on my monitor. And then the differences between FreeSync here. So with FreeSync, regular FreeSync, you have tear-free experience and low latency with this. My monitor upstairs has FreeSync, and then you have like FreeSync 2, right? Which is FreeSync Premium. At least 120 Hertz refresh rate at minimum, full HD resolution, support of low frame compensation, and then low latency. And then with the Premium Pro technology, raises the bar to the next level for games, enabling an exceptional user experience when playing HDR games, movies, and other content. So we're just layering on more things, and really the big thing with that is HDR support. So that's where I'm hoping this will actually be a little bit better, even though it's only HDR 400, but at least 120 Hertz refresh rate at minimum, full HD resolution, support for low frame rate compensation, low latency, and SDR and HDR, and the support for HDR with meticulous color and luminance certification. So hopefully that's where I'm talking about. Hopefully I still get to see that it's not bright, because a lot of times when I do HDR on a monitor and it's only 400, it's just too dark for me. It doesn't look that good in my opinion. So that is going to be it with this stuff. Let's go ahead and take this upstairs. Let's get it set up and start playing some games, and I'll give my initial impressions with this. All right, so we're all set up here, and the other monitor I had was the Acer XZ321Q 32-inch monitor. It's basically the Predator monitor, and all they took out of it was G-Sync. So it has FreeSync instead of G-Sync. Couple upsides to this monitor. One, it actually has speakers, something I didn't mention. This doesn't actually have speakers on it, so you're going to have an outside audio source for that. This also has the swivel that it can do, which this can't do. and it actually has 4 of the USB ports, not 2. Now luckily I was only using 2 on it, so not a big issue there, but if you're relying on those extra 4, that's something else to consider with this. And it's actually the same price. You're looking at $370 Amazon Prime. So I'm actually going to put a link for my review on that, and then I'll actually put a link if you want to actually pick this up yourself. So upside to that other one is we got the speakers and we have the swivel with it as well. So going back to the Gigabyte one though, with this, it actually has a OSD sidekick, which allows you to set your display options with keyboard and mouse, giving you the easiest way to adjust monitor settings. That's pretty cool. It does have a timer on it, and then it does have the crosshair feature, and it has an FPS counter as well, if you want to actually enable those. So for those that are asking, you actually have an alignment feature as well in this. So it does have a ton of options, which are really, really cool. And then it actually has a dashboard on it integrated. I haven't seen that with any of the monitors that I've used. Usually I'm using software. This actually allows you to display via the monitor all that information on the side here, which is really, really cool. Now the button on the back is different also. So for the menu setting, you're just pushing one button. That's the power button as well. So powering on and off, changing your settings, going into here. We have gaming, picture, display, PIP, and then PBP, system, language, save all settings, reset all. In gaming, you have black equalizer, super resolution, display mode, overdrive, and then the AMD FreeSync Premium Pro there. Picture settings, you have FPS, RTS, RPG, movie, reader, sRGB, and then custom 1, 2, and 3. Within that, you can change the brightness, contrast, color vibrance, sharpness, gamma, color temperature, low blue light, dynamic contrast, Sensei demo, and then reset picture. So once you exit through this though, depending on where I push, or the direction that I push, instead of just initially clicking in, it's going to bring up the quick option menu with that. So if I click to the left here, I can adjust the volume. Click to the right, I can change the input. Click up, I can actually do the black equalizer. And then if I click down here, then I get to change the picture mode with that. Really, really cool. It's going to take me a second to get used to that because I'm used to having the buttons there. But once you kind of get a feel for it, it does feel a little bit more intuitive there. If I click to the right, I get to, sorry, not the right. If I click the button and then go to the right, which is going to be the game assist here, game info. So we can do the gaming timer, gaming counter, refresh rate, and then you actually get to change the information location with this. So if I turn that on, now I get to change where I'm actually going to put that, right? And it's just going to be the 3 points on the outside here, if you're actually going to put it there, and then it'll pop up. So easy enough with that. But I'm going to turn that off. Don't want that on. With that too, like I said, you actually get to enable the crosshair if you want to do that, the different styles, and then the display alignment if you want to do that as well. If we go to the dashboard here, the function, on or off, right? And then you get to choose the location. You get to choose what's on there, CPU temperature, frequency, fan speed, usage, rate, temperature, and then you get into your GPU temperature, frequency, fan speed, and then Aorus mouse DPI if you're going to use it, and then it's going to pop up over here if you're messing with anything. So I'm going to turn that off again on that because I don't want that turned on right now. So a lot of options with this, which is really, really awesome. Now you're in these two camps of, do I need the speakers? Do I need the extra USB ports? Do I need the swivel with that? If you do, I'm not going to recommend this. I'm going to recommend the Acer there. And I've done the review on that. I love that monitor. It is really, really good. Outside of that, tweaking settings, which I still need to do. Make sure when you set this up, like with any monitor, you actually have to go into the NVIDIA control panel and set the monitor to the 165 Hertz or the 165 refresh rate there. Now this has the 165 and the FreeSync Premium Pro. The Acer does not. That's 144 and it just has regular FreeSync with it. I haven't had any problems with FreeSync. I've messed with doing the G-Sync compatibility and I've usually only had problems with it. When you're running a higher refresh rate monitor, usually what I see, if your GPU can actually handle it, there's not really any problems with that. I've had G-Sync monitors, they look pretty much the same to me when running the higher refresh rates there. You can always tweak the settings with that, but I don't really experience any screen tearing or anything like that unless I actually haven't tweaked certain settings within the NVIDIA control panel, making sure that it maybe doesn't actually try to go over whatever the panel is, this being the 165. If it tries to blow past that, now we're going to get screen tearing and anything like that, because your GPU is feeding more screens to the screen than it can keep up with, thus the screen tearing. And this already has low latency and all that other stuff. So comparing again to the Gigabyte, they do have other options with this, by the way. So the one I did, comparing it to a VA panel, they also have IPS, which means a little bit higher price with this. I mean, these ones right now, 2 are new for $750, or 715, sorry. With this, it has 10 bits of color. This has 8 bits of color. And it still has the 1 millisecond response time. It still has the same refresh rate, but it has 95% of the DCI P3 color accuracy with that, versus the 94 with this. The other one that I pointed out that was the VA panel, that's the Aorus, is 90. The other difference is going to come down to the stand. So when we're looking at the picture here, the stand's going to be a little bit different, and you're going to get the RGB on it, on the back of a monitor that you're not even going to see unless it just happens to glow on your backdrop. So if it doesn't glow on the backdrop, it's kind of a waste, right? So that's the other one that you can actually take a look at. Those are really, really expensive. I'd love to try one out. It's just, like I said, very, very expensive with this. But gaming on this thing was really, really fun. And I did enable HDR with Doom Eternal. So when I pull Doom Eternal up here, enabling HDR, by default, it looked horrible. Went in, tweaked the settings a bunch, and it's actually pretty decent with this. It's, out of the games I've played and I've tried to enable HDR and tweak the settings, this is probably the best I've seen a game look with HDR 400. I haven't messed with any monitors that have HDR 10 on them yet. I've done it on my TCL TV, but not with a monitor. Usually those are very, very expensive. So with this, it's there and it's actually decent. Now I have an RTX 2080 Ti too, so I do have a very, very good GPU with this. Let's just throw something that has color on there. So that's going to assist in that a little bit, just because I'm not going to have any thing, the GPU itself isn't going to struggle with actually pumping out the 165 frames with this. So it looks, like I said, it looks really good. I've tweaked some of these settings. The biggest thing that I notice when I have HDR on and you do get the settings that you want is a little bit smoother with everything, right? The color depth and everything that you're seeing is really, really good. That plays into that smoothness, where we're not seeing an insane amount of jagged edges. This is where then I can go into the monitor and I can tweak that sharpness just a little bit. Maybe it looks a little bit too smooth and I don't like that. But in terms of color, it looks really, really good. But that, like I said, is with me actually tweaking all the settings. You can go in there and you can tweak the settings and you can change this so it doesn't look that great at all, right? HDR brightness 16. I mean, how dark do you want it to go? I do brighter. And I still play around with these settings, but I do a little bit brighter so I can see if it's too dark and get into some of those areas. I can't see anything at all, right? The biggest thing here too is going to be the min stops. Right there, how dark everything gets with that. And then max stops. So if I have it at 3, I mean, the bloom on everything is horrible. So I just turn it all the way down because I don't want that, especially with a game like this. So gaming is really, really smooth. I'm maintaining the 159 to 165 FPS easily. Now with this too, right now, I actually just have this, so it's just unlimited ammo. So my big thing with doing this is how much chaos can I do. 140s to 150s right now. Max settings on everything and HDR on. So as I just essentially demolish everything. Color looks really good still, and it's not struggling, right? It's maintaining the FPS really well with that. So I've been presently surprised with the HDR on this. It looks really good. Beyond that, tweaking settings within this monitor to make sure everything look on just my desktop here on Windows looks really good. The settings that I want, I usually like a little bit more vibrant colors with this, so that's why it may seem oversaturated in the video here, but that's just my personal preference with this. So still some tweaking to do, but things for you guys to actually be aware of. I'll put the 2 monitors in the description so you can actually look at that yourselves. But I'm impressed with this thing for the price point, and like I said, it very much is a comparable one, same price point to the Acer. It's just, what are you going to want with that, right? Do you want the 165 hertz versus the 144? Do you want the Freesync Premium Pro versus just regular Freesync? Do you need the swivel or the speakers or the extra two USB? Little things like that. The other thing to note too is that actually, the other one has an 1800R curve versus the 1500R. I personally don't tell a difference between the two. When I'm sitting here, they're so comparable. I don't tell a difference between the two, but I do tell the difference between a flat screen and a curved screen, and I always opt for the curve. It's just slightly more immersive in my opinion. But I'm going to leave this video at that. I have more testing to do. I'm going to play around with this monitor for a couple more weeks and then give an official review on it. But my initial impressions are that this thing is really awesome for the price point and what you're actually getting out of it. So that is going to be it for this video. If you like the video, hit the like button for me. If you want to continue to follow along with all my content, hit the subscribe button for me. Thanks so much for watching.